Alright, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at some of my favorite boomstick vehicles in the game. Now, boomstick vehicles are very similar to rat vehicles in the game when it comes to the fun factor, and they're definitely one of my favorites. So let's start with the Object 268. Now, this monstrosity is usually overlooked when we look at the BMP-1 platoon, but this is probably the most broken vehicle of this platoon. It has a huge main gun, huge 152mm main gun to be accurate. It has the T10A or T10M hull, so it means that it's well armored, and this is a tier 6 destroyer. It's also very fast, so yeah, this is one vehicle that you don't want to meet. And when we get the tech tree, the battle rating of this vehicle will definitely be higher, and it might get more balanced than it is right now. So the next vehicle will be the Object 120. Now, this is more of a railgun than a boomstick. I mean, just look at the length of this cannon. This is the longest cannon in the game. A 9-meter long 152mm APFSDS launcher, although the APFSDS shells that this thing can launch are made out of steel, and their reliability is not as reliable as some of the other steel darts or other darts that you can find. But for an 80mm average penetration, and you can also fire some very scary high explosive shells, yeah. And that vehicle also has an autoloader to top it off, but has no armor. And the third boomstick for today, the PLZ83-130. And this is one of the more recent ones. Has a 130mm main cannon. The overall design language is very similar to the Object 120. The turret is at the back. The main gun, obviously quite long. Doesn't have a PFSDS shells, but has one of the most powerful classic APC-BC shells in the game. I think this cannon is very similar to the IS-7's main cannon. About the same caliber. I would expect the IS-7 to do a bit more penetration-wise, but we will see when that vehicle is released. And let's have some fun with these vehicles, and I'll start with the boomstick. Now, why I'm starting with, well, they're all boomsticks, okay, but I'm starting with the Object because this is one of my favorite medium tier vehicles. I think this thing can easily fight up to tier 7, tier 8 because of the main gun, but it is definitely not too strong. But I have to admit, having this thing fighting panthers and stuff like that, it feels so wrong. Fighting panthers with the Object 268. Oh, not just panthers, you can see tigers and other World War II vehicles. I also saw some Shermans with this. Yeah, imagine being in a Sherman and you see this looking at you. Yeah, you're about to have a very bad day. So I think the introduction of the tech tree, I think it's going to be added very, very soon actually, is also to balance things out, because there are some vehicles within the platoons that are definitely raising some questions, and this is one such vehicle that definitely raised some questions. I remember when the BMP-1 platoon was launched, it was a very, very hilarious release. I say hilarious because everyone was so mad when this was released. And also, I don't really blame the players for being that mad, but I think the BMP-1 and the IS-3 got a little bit overhyped because no one was talking about the Object 268. When I looked at this thing, I immediately knew that in this platoon, the Object is definitely the most busted vehicle that there is. Because you get speed, you get ridiculous good armor for a tier 6 vehicle, you get a huge cannon, you do get a very nice autocannon or machine gun on top of the vehicle. I mean, this is honestly, it doesn't have a turret. That's, I guess, one of the things that are a drawback, but this is a tank destroyer, it doesn't need a turret. And for a tier 6 vehicle, yeah, this is definitely on the higher end when it comes to the power scale. And Yeah, this is a vehicle that was definitely overlooked in the BMP1 platoon. It shouldn't have been overlooked because I would say between the BMP1 and the IS-3, this is definitely the most broken vehicle of the platoon. You can deal with the IS-3 with high explosive, and you also have a bunch of other vehicles that can punch through the armor of the IS-3. You can kill the BMP-1 with high explosive with pretty much anything, to be honest. This vehicle can give you problems because of its armor and because of the way it's constructed. It does have weak spots at the front though, but compared to the IS-3 and the BMP-1, yeah, this is definitely the toughest vehicle of the platoon. And I do play this thing a little bit more aggressively than I would play other vehicles usually, because I am very confident in the armor of this thing. When a player sees this thing running towards them, they usually panic, and I don't blame the player for panicking, because if I see this thing running at me, I'm out of that situation. I'm just going to run away as well. The Object 268 is a vehicle that you don't want to underestimate, and a vehicle that you don't want to meet this vehicle in battle, because they're annoying and they're very nasty. It's not invincible though, but it can be a huge pain to deal with, and that's just a fact. And that's what I'm saying, it's a very good call to add the tech tree and to separate all the vehicles from platoons, because that will solve the problem of having very powerful vehicles in certain platoons, and it will solve the problem of having certain vehicles in the tier that they shouldn't really be in. And I think this vehicle might be one of the vehicles that definitely should be tier 7 or tier 8, I would say. I would say that the Object 268 could easily be a tier 7 vehicle based on its performance, and I would say tier 7 minimum, maybe tier 8 even. Tier 9, no, wouldn't do well in tier 9, but below that, yeah, it would do well in tier 7. I would say tier 7 might be the most balanced option for the Object 268. In any case, if you did have a chance to get this vehicle, you're probably enjoying it. It's again one of the more fun vehicles to drive around. The main gun slaps. I usually use AP. It has AP HEBC explosive as well. So if you plant this shell in the right spot, the enemy vehicle will not be moving. Actually, not be moving is maybe a understatement. The enemy vehicle will not be in the same dimension. Well, of course, sometimes when you shoot at light ammo vehicles, it will not do much, but usually when you hit something with this boomstick, that was a very unfortunate SPAA right there. Revenge bombed. That was a lot of bombs actually. But yeah, very easy to use. It has also a spoiler, log spoiler. You know, you want that downforce to keep the rear vehicle on the ground, you know, for more stability and more grip. That's spoiler. It's also a very beautiful vehicle to look at. Very nice hull. I love it. And that was the first boomstick. Let's go to the next one. And that will be the Object 120. Now the railgun tank, the Object, this doesn't have a lot of armor. Has very thin armor. I think it's like 30mm or something. So you do not want to get hit. This is being played more like the traditional tank destroyer. A vehicle for sniping, has a PFSDS shells, also has high explosive shells, has an autoloader. Fapper wise, definitely much better than the Object, that's for sure, much better than the Object. However, it's a tier 7 vehicle and you will be fighting higher tier vehicles. You will not fight Shermans with this. The Object 268 will occasionally see Shermans, by the way. This vehicle, imagine if this vehicle was fighting Shermans, that would be pretty funny. But yeah, very powerful main cannon, autoloader, and it's able to launch high explosive, so it's also fairly fast, maneuverability wise and overall speed wise. It's pretty solid, it's pretty decent, and faster than the Object, but has much less armor. However, you do get some very nice shells to go along with it. As I mentioned before, the APFSDS shell on this are steel darts, and they tend to shatter, they tend to bounce, despite having so much penetration. I would say one of the reasons why this tank isn't liked as much is because of the APFSDS shell type. But honestly, it's going to get the job done if you're aiming at the weak spots. Also, the spalling might not be the best, so you need to kind of treat this shell like APDS, I would say. It feels more closer to APDS than APFSDS when it comes to spalling, but not necessarily a deal breaker, at least for me. I don't really struggle with any vehicle, but I have to say, that's a huge dart though. That dart is huge, alright? That shell has a lot of energy behind it when you launch it. I mean, obviously it will have, I think it should have like 580 millimeters of penetration. After all, it is a 152 millimeter dart fired from a 9 meter long cannon. So yeah, that's definitely a huge main gun. I think only the FV405 rivals the length of this gun. And you might be wondering, why am I not including the FV405 in this video? Well, it's on the premium vehicle. It's not a premium vehicle, but it will be included in one of the next boomsticks when I compare the non-premium vehicles. That's the only reason why the FV is not included. We really need the FV183, the other boomstick, right? The Death Star, the so-called Death Star. We need that vehicle added in the game. And I have a feeling that that might be a premium at one point. But yeah, I don't know why that vehicle is not added yet in the game. That should be a very fun tank to use. Obviously, I will be using it. One of my favorite vehicles of all time, so I have to use it. M60 Rise. No, for some reason my accuracy was all over the place in this battle here. I think it's because of lag. I don't know. My shells don't like to fly where I want them to fly, and that is really annoying. Well, that steel dart definitely is doing a lot of damage. I can definitely understand why this vehicle is not liked. I also love how the steel dart went through the friendly vehicle and all the way into the enemy vehicle. And that's a very good, accurate hit in the ammo. So, I mean, this is pretty much what you can expect and how to play this particular vehicle. Not a vehicle that should be running around. It has no stabilization, it has literally no armor, very vulnerable to ATGMs, very vulnerable to high explosive. It's a vehicle that should be used from a great distance, and it should take advantage of the fast shell that it's able to launch.
Most of the zones are under control.
Do I enjoy this vehicle? Yes, I do. But I would say, difficulty-wise, the Object definitely feels more easier to use. This feels more difficult to use because of the armor, and also this vehicle is big. It's a huge vehicle, so it's much easier to target and to aim. And if you're wondering, yes, this vehicle is very vulnerable to autocannons, very vulnerable to bombs, very vulnerable to missiles, very vulnerable to revenge bombers and stuff like that. Well, that was a nice battle. Well, went better than with the object and 9 destroyed vehicles. Okay. Not bad at all actually. Not bad at all. At the end of the day, all the vehicles that I play and that I show here are going to be good vehicles. All of them will usually deliver good performance. It comes down to player skill at the end of the day. That was a ram. that was a funny ram. Okay, I also love how I have this similar score across the battles here. Very similar score actually. Next battle, and now we will be driving the PLZ83-130. This vehicle plays about the same as the object, has a smaller caliber main gun and no APFSDS shells, but it has one of the more powerful APC BC shells, also explosive, also has explosive, high explosive, high explosive, what the hell am I talking about? It has explosive AP shells, my favorite, and I would say one of the more powerful normal shells in the game. Maybe for some does seem like a deal breaker that it's not a PFSDS, but honestly it doesn't need that, and I rarely say that, but the APC BC shell on this thing slaps. I've been driving this vehicle for a while and it did not disappoint. This shell slaps. It's a very powerful AP shell, and you have high explosive for the more lightly armored vehicles. In some occasions that works. Now, why was that a IS-2 in tier 7? I don't know, but okay. This vehicle has no armor, plays the same as the object, and it's also a vehicle that should be used from great distance. Also a sniping vehicle. Its hull does resemble artillery, although I don't think this is artillery. It has crazy elevation, so technically I guess it could be used as artillery. And it's a mouse. Oh, that's not going to penetrate. Okay, angled mouse, so I have to wait for the right moment to hit the weak spot on the mouse. The ammo is stored at the back. The turret is, as I mentioned before, quite big, no armor, so vulnerable to high explosives, to missiles like ATGMs, bombs, vulnerable to revenge bombers, autocannons, stuff like that. That should be your primary target, and obviously that's why this vehicle is preferred to be used at a longer distance, so that you have enough cover. On this map, on this side, not really doable. Well, technically doable, but I like to be right in the middle on this map, on this position, because I have easy access to the left and right sides, to the bases there, and I cover basically the most vulnerable and most important spots. So that way I can... Oh, weak spot. And how is this mouse alive? I don't know. Should have been destroyed, but the mouse is somehow still moving. When I get hit in that position, I blow up. But when I shoot the mouse in that position, it takes a couple hits. Kind of, yeah, bad luck, I guess. Someone homing my way. It's a tiger right in the turrets. Boom. There we go. Usually when you penetrate, it will destroy the vehicle in one hit. After all, explosive AP ammo does that. Mouse side, lower plate, turret cheek. Okay. And it bounced. I got hit and it bounced. That rarely happens. And because, again, this vehicle has no armor. And you must not take hits at all. Avoid being hit, because it's not going to end well for this vehicle. In general, it has a slower rotating turret if we compare it to the object. Again, I missed weak spot, I hit the side armor, that's just bad luck at this moment. But it's fairly fast, very maneuverable, not as fast like the object, but you know, it's enough. Well, this does smell like an epic fail, so yeah, I'll try to do what I can to do as much as possible before I get yeeted, because at this moment it's unavoidable. The enemy holds 3 zones, we hold 0. Not much I can do in this moment. I can just try to eliminate as many vehicles as possible. So, between all these 3 vehicles that I showed today, honestly, I personally enjoy the object the most. I think most people do. The second favorite would be this thing, the PLZ83-130. And then on the third spot would be the Object 120. I find the PLZ to be much easier to use than the object. Feels much easier to use than the object, but a bit more difficult to use than the not the object 268. This thing feels much easier to use than the Object 120, but it feels a bit more difficult to use than the Object 268. There's a lot of objects, so I have to be specific when I'm talking about specific vehicles here. But yeah, overall, I would say at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what vehicle you use. If you like the 268, you will like this thing. If you like the 120, you will like the PLZ. At the end of the day, if you're good with one vehicle, you will do well with the other vehicle, and you will do well with the third vehicle. Obviously, we do have favorite vehicles, that's fine, but I'm saying if you are good with one vehicle, you will be good with the other and with the third. Well, that was expected, no other way to end the match at this moment. And well, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. It was a fun little comparison, and do tell me which one of these 3 vehicles do you like more. And as always, if you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.